Have you ever wondered how much courage it took for a woman to come out as LGBT, at a time when one rumor could destroy her career and turn her life into a public spectacle? For many, it was unthinkable. 17 brilliant black actresses were forced to love in silence, hide their truth, and carry their secrets to the grave. Their stories reveal not just personal tragedy, but a cruel era that denied them the right to live authentically. In this video, we uncover the hidden relationships, the painful truths, and the secrets Hollywood buried for decades. Nell Carter, the beloved star whose final wish shocked Hollywood. By the late 1980s, America saw Nell as a woman at the height of success, commanding Broadway stages and winning hearts on Give Me a Break. But behind the spotlight lived a woman deeply wounded by love. 2 failed marriages had left her guarded, convinced romance was no longer meant for her. Everything changed in the fall of 1993 when she met Quasar at a quiet Beverly Hills party. And wasn't famous, just a soft-spoken Midwestern woman working behind the scenes in entertainment. Yet her calm presence reached Nell in a way no one else ever had. Their bond grew in secrecy, hidden in hotel rooms and late-night whispers. A love lived in the shadows. Nell later adopted 2 sons, Joshua and Daniel, and at home, and helped raise them as a second mother, though to the world, she was merely a close friend. When Nell broke down from years of suppressed pain, and would dry her tears and softly say, "Let them believe what they want, as long as we still have each other." In 2001, and died suddenly. Nell was devastated but forced herself to go on. 3 years later, Nell suffered a fatal stroke at just 54, leaving the nation in mourning. Then came the shock. Her will left everything, her estate and custody of her sons, to Quasar. But had already been gone for years. Nell's family immediately challenged the will, triggering a bitter legal battle. In court, Nell's lawyer revealed handwritten letters and private photographs, undeniable proof that Nell and had lived as a family for nearly a decade. In one trembling note, Nell wrote, "If it weren't for Anne, I would have been dead long ago." The truth was undeniable. Anne wasn't a secret fling, she was Nell Carter's greatest love and strongest anchor. Though the estate was eventually divided by law, the real revelation stunned the world. Nell Carter had spent her life loving quietly, and even in death, she chose to leave everything to that love. Ruby Dee was admired not for seduction, but for her brilliance and compassion. To the public, her marriage to Ossie Davis looked flawless, a golden union of love, art, and civil rights activism. But behind that image was a truth few ever knew. In the early 1970s, as sexual liberation swept across America, Ruby and Ossie quietly agreed to an open marriage. In public, they remained inseparable, hand in hand at rallies, united against racism. In private, they lived separate emotional lives. Ossie later admitted to casual affairs, but Ruby's freedom masked something far deeper, her hidden love for another woman. Rumors surfaced in 1973 after she was seen at a Harlem gala holding hands with a short-haired woman in a leather jacket. Whispers followed, along with secret love letters, one reading, "He may have the whole world, but you are my world." The final revelation came only after Ruby's death in 2014. At her funeral in New York's Riverside Church, a silver-haired woman stepped forward, placed a sealed envelope on the casket, and vanished without a word. Some say it contained those hidden letters. The rumor was never confirmed, but it left a haunting echo. Ruby Dee spent her life fighting for truth and justice, yet her deepest love remained hidden until the very end. Eartha Kitt. From the fearless Catwoman to a love the world was never meant to see. When Eartha Kitt first slinked onto television screens as Catwoman, the world was spellbound. With her piercing stare, husky, seductive voice, and unapologetic confidence, she didn't just play the role, she owned it. Wildly beautiful and fiercely intelligent, Eartha became more than a performer. She became a symbol of power, sensuality, and defiance. But behind that intoxicating image lived a woman shaped by scars, burdened by fear, and haunted by the constant weight of judgment. In the 1950s, as her singing and acting career soared across continents, fate led Eartha to Paris. At an elegant art gala, she met Marlene Dietrich, the legendary Hollywood icon whose beauty and mystique had already conquered the world. Their first exchange was polite, almost restrained. Yet the lingering eye contact told a different story. Something unspoken ignited between them, something neither woman would ever dare acknowledge publicly. Soon, whispers rippled through elite artistic circles. Eartha and Marlene were rumored to have shared countless private evenings in Paris, Berlin, and New York. Hotel staff later claimed they'd seen Marlene clasping Eartha's hand in dimly lit hallways past midnight, the two laughing like carefree schoolgirls. Still, when questioned, both women chose silence. No photographs emerged. Only rumors. Only stolen glances. Then came the turning point. In 1968, Eartha Kitt publicly criticized the Vietnam War during a White House luncheon. The backlash was swift and brutal. Her American career collapsed overnight. Blacklisted and exiled, she was forced to rebuild her life and career in Europe. It was said that during this lonely chapter, Marlene Dietrich became her quiet refuge, her strength in the shadows. But Marlene, too, was a woman of many secrets, known for her countless affairs with both men and women. What bound them together was both solace and suffering, a love that comforted, yet cut deeply. When Eartha Kitt passed away on December 25, 2008, tributes celebrated her iconic Catwoman, her unmistakable voice, and her fearless spirit. Few spoke of the love she carried silently to her grave. Years later, an article in Metro Weekly reignited rumors of her relationship with Marlene Dietrich, exposing a hidden chapter of Eartha's life the world had never been allowed to see. And if the whispers were true, then Eartha Kitt, a woman brave enough to challenge the White House, still lived in a time where loving openly could have destroyed everything she had already fought so hard to survive. A legend on screen, a rebel in history, and a love story forever left in the shadows. Phyllis Hyman, the towering diva who fell in the dark. In 1979, when You Know How to Love Me hit the airwaves, Phyllis Hyman was crowned the new queen of R&B. Nearly 5 feet 11 inches tall, statuesque and magnetic, she commanded every room she entered. Her voice, razor-sharp yet velvet deep, could cut clean through a full orchestra and still leave silence trembling in its wake. On stage, she was unforgettable, irreplaceable. But while crowds shouted her name beneath blinding lights, Phyllis was quietly slipping into the shadows. In the early 80s, tabloids chased rumors of brief romances between Phyllis and male artists, feeding the public a familiar story. Behind closed doors, however, insiders whispered something far more complicated. A female songwriter, frequently seen with Phyllis in a New York studio, became a constant presence. Night after night, they left together after midnight, sliding into a dark-tinted car. Instead of heading to a hotel, as many assumed, they vanished into a private apartment across town. One studio technician later claimed he heard a duet recorded by the two women, lyrics never listed in any contract, never meant for release. Within days, the tape disappeared from the archives. No explanation, no trace. By 1994, the weight of depression and unrelenting pressure had become unbearable. Phyllis began mixing sleeping pills with alcohol. Hidden in a wooden cabinet drawer was a small notebook. After her death, family members said its pages were filled with metaphors, poetic, aching, and two initials repeated again and again, matching the songwriter's name. One entry stood out, dated November 1994. If this love must die in the dark, then at least I lived truly, even if only for a few hours. On June 30, 1995, at 6 p.m., Phyllis was scheduled to rehearse for the Apollo Theater anniversary. She never arrived. At 3:15 that afternoon, she was found collapsed in her apartment, surrounded by empty pill bottles. She was 45 years old. To the public, it was a sudden, tragic death. But among friends, quietly passed hand to hand, were leaked diary pages, silent proof of a love forced underground, a truth lived in secrecy, and a soul that carried its deepest song alone for more than a decade. Cicely Tyson. An interview hidden for nearly a century. Cicely Tyson was once an irreplaceable icon of Hollywood. She rose to national fame with the autobiography of Miss Jane Pittman in 1974, earned multiple Emmy Awards, and was celebrated as the most dignified black woman ever to grace the screen. To the public, Cicely was flawless, a moral compass, a symbol of grace and strength. Yet the higher she was placed on a pedestal, the harder it became for anyone to imagine that she, too, might have carried a secret, one she guarded her entire life. Whispers first surfaced in the late 1970s while she was preparing for The Women of Brewster Place, which would later air in 1989. Those close to the production noticed Cicely had grown unusually close to a young actress in the company. By the summer of 1982, the rumors intensified. People claimed to have seen the two staying late together at a rented Harlem apartment long after rehearsals ended. One colleague later recalled a moment that lingered in their memory. "One night, I went back to the studio to grab a script. The light in Cicely's room was still on. I heard laughter, soft giggles. It didn't sound like work. It sounded like two people completely lost in intimacy." The rumors spread quietly, then just as quickly were buried. Everyone knew Cicely Tyson's dignified image was untouchable, surely too sacred to be shaken by stories so unbelievable. And yet, the story did not end there. When Cicely Tyson passed away in 2021 at the age of 96, it seemed that any unanswered questions would be buried with her. But then, an archivist made a stunning revelation, an unaired interview from 1992. In that tape, Cicely said only this: "Family is the one I choose, and love needs no title." She named no one. She offered no explanation. But those words were enough to send shockwaves through the public consciousness. Could Hollywood's most dignified icon have lived a life of love in silence? A love never spoken aloud, never acknowledged, yet deeply real? In death, Cicely Tyson did not close her story. She opened a mystery more haunting than ever before. Whitney Houston. A love song that didn't fade away. It drowned in silence. Let's rewind to the summer of 1980 in East Orange, New Jersey. The heat was heavy, the air thick with possibility. Whitney Houston was just 17 years old when she met Robin Crawford on a basketball court. One look was enough. What began as a glance turned into a bond the world wouldn't learn about for decades. They became inseparable, each other's safe place, each other's truth. Robin later recalled how they once kissed in a tiny room in New Jersey, the walls so thin they had to whisper, their bodies trembling with both fear and longing. It was young love, intense and real. But by 1982, everything changed. Whitney ended the physical relationship. Her family, especially her mother, strongly opposed it, warning her that this love would destroy her career, her image, even her soul. From that moment on, Whitney Houston had to become what the world demanded, a flawless, heterosexual pop goddess. Robin stayed, but only in the shadows. No longer a lover, she became the loyal friend, assistant, and quiet protector. Even after Whitney married Bobby Brown in 1992, Robin still lived just doors away in the same mansion, witnessing the chaos, the violence, and the moments when Whitney collapsed under the weight of addiction. Then came February 11, 2012. Whitney Houston was found lifeless in the bathtub of room 434 at the Beverly Hilton. Downstairs, Clive Davis's pre-Grammy party went on as planned. The world called it an accident. But those who truly knew her whispered something darker. Whitney didn't die from water. She died from loneliness. The greatest tragedy wasn't the bathtub. It was that a woman who sang of eternal love was forced to bury her own true love before she ever turned 20. Naya Rivera. When Whitney Houston's voice went silent, Hollywood thought it had already witnessed its share of heartbreak. But 40 years later, another tragedy would echo just as deeply, this time bearing the name Naya Rivera. On Glee, Naya brought Santana Lopez to life, a fearless lesbian teenager who stood in a crowded school hallway and declared her love out loud. That moment alone helped save thousands of LGBTQ+ teens, giving them courage, language, and the freedom to recognize themselves. Santana lived boldly, unapologetically, in the light. The cruel irony? Naya Rivera never allowed herself that same freedom. At the height of Glee's success between 2009 and 2015, rumors about Naya's private life never stopped swirling. Cast members quietly noted how, once filming wrapped, she rarely joined the group's parties. Instead, she would disappear, often alongside a young, rising singer in Los Angeles. One summer night in 2011, in West Hollywood, the two women were spotted leaving an exclusive, artists-only bar, fingers intertwined. They didn't linger. They slipped into the same black SUV, which drove them straight to the Mondrian Hotel. Witnesses said they vanished behind a 9th-floor door and didn't reappear until morning. Another story was even more startling. During a Glee promotional tour in New Jersey, a freelance photographer claimed he captured Naya kissing the same woman backstage moments after a performance. He described the kiss as brief but intense, charged with the kind of emotion that forgets the world exists. Yet less than 24 hours later, the photo vanished. The photographer later said an unnamed intermediary paid him in cash to ensure it was never released. Then came July 8, 2020. Naya took her young son boating on Lake Piru. By midday, the boy was found alone on the drifting boat. Naya was gone. 5 days later, her body surfaced. The media remembered her as a heroic mother who gave her life to save her child. And she was. But fans knew the deeper tragedy wasn't only what happened in that lake. It was the heartbreaking truth that the character Naya played lived a proud, public love, while Naya Rivera herself left this world having never fully claimed her own. A voice that helped others live freely fell silent, still holding a secret. Diane Carroll. A name synonymous with grace, beauty, and groundbreaking success. After her death, a series of photographs reportedly surfaced, images that sent quiet shockwaves through Hollywood. Unlike many of her contemporaries, Diane Carroll was remembered as the undisputed queen of elegance. She shattered barriers as the first black woman to star in her own television sitcom, Julia, in 1968. She won a Tony Award, earned an Academy Award nomination for Claudine in 1974, and on stage, she embodied pride, sophistication, and triumph. But behind the flawless image was a private world few ever glimpsed. In her 2008 memoir, The Legs Are the Last to Go, Diane made a brief, almost casual remark that would later ignite intense speculation. She hinted that some of her extramarital relationships were not limited to men. What seemed like an offhand confession quickly became the spark for years of whispered rumors. According to long-circulating stories, in 1977, while filming in Los Angeles, Diane grew unusually close to a female screenwriter. The woman was said to visit her Beverly Hills home often. One morning, neighbors reportedly saw her leaving the house still wearing the same evening gown from the night before. Hollywood took notice, but no one spoke openly. More startling still were the quiet murmurs about Polaroid photos taken at private Hollywood Hills gatherings, images in which Diane allegedly appeared affectionate and relaxed alongside other women, far from the public eye. The rumors reached a crescendo after her passing in 2019. Her funeral was dignified and solemn, fitting for a legend. Yet soon after, whispers returned. According to unverified accounts, a locked room in her home contained a collection of Polaroids from the 1970s. Photographs said to show Diane smiling, embracing, and sharing intimate moments with women unknown to the public. Those images have never been officially released. The truth has never been confirmed. But the rumors alone were enough to stun the artistic community. The woman the world revered as Hollywood's symbol of refinement may have lived two parallel lives, one bathed in spotlight and applause, the other hidden in shadows, carrying secrets she took with her to the grave. Madge Sinclair. To many, she was unforgettable on screen, but to those who knew her final days, she became the woman of quiet mystery. The Jamaican-born actress left an indelible mark on Hollywood with powerful roles in Roots, 1977, and Coming to America, 1988. She married Michael Sinclair, but the marriage ended almost as quickly as it began. They had no children, and few people knew the real reason behind the split. According to those close to them, the relationship collapsed after a heated argument in which Michael accused Madge of never truly caring for men at all. In the years that followed, whispers began to circulate on the set of Trapper John. MD cast and crew noticed that Madge spent an unusual amount of time with a female nurse consultant. The pattern became impossible to ignore. When filming wrapped, the two would quietly leave together, disappearing into a silver car parked at the far edge of the lot. No one heard their conversations. They only saw the doors shut, the windows slowly fog, and two silhouettes leaning close in the darkness. Those repeated moments hardened into persistent rumors. Madge, it seemed, was not only bound to her on-screen roles, but living another, deeply private story behind the scenes. The greatest shock came in 1994, when Madge was hospitalized with leukemia. As family members arrived, preparing to take turns at her bedside, they were stopped cold at the reception desk. The legal next of kin form listed a woman none of them recognized. This woman arrived every day, walked through doors closed to blood relatives, signed all critical medical documents, and stayed beside Madge's bed throughout the night. In her final months, it was this woman, not her family, who remained closest, while loved ones stood helpless in the hallway. On December 20, 1995, Madge Sinclair died at the age of 57. On paper, she left this world alone. But for those who witnessed her final days, the image of the strange woman in the hospital room lingered, an unanswered question, a final secret, and a truth buried with Madge's death. Roxy Roker, the vanished love letter. Sharing a quiet tragedy similar to M. Sinclair was Roxy Roker. Best known for her groundbreaking role as Helen Willis on The Jeffersons, and as the mother of rock icon Lenny Kravitz, Roker was a true trailblazer in American television. Behind her poised public image, however, lingered a mystery that never faded. Roxy married Cy Kravitz, but their union unraveled in the late 1970s. A close friend later revealed the reason. Cy allegedly walked out after discovering a deeply personal love letter addressed to Roxy and signed by another woman. The letter vanished almost immediately, but the damage was done. The fracture it caused was one that never healed. Just a few years after the divorce, at a jazz party in Harlem, a musician claimed he saw Roxy dancing quietly in a shadowed corner with a female journalist. The two slipped away before the night ended. After that evening, subtle whispers about Roxy's private life began to circulate, never loudly, but persistently. Later, in Los Angeles, a hotel employee recalled that Roxy frequently booked rooms under an alias. She often arrived with a younger woman and insisted on complete privacy. No questions. No interruptions. On December 2, 1995, Roxy Roker passed away from breast cancer at the age of 66. Her funeral was intimate and understated. Friends and fans honored her as a pioneering actress who broke barriers and changed television history. Yet among those who knew her best, the murmurs never fully disappeared, the missing love letter, the secret nights, the unanswered questions. In the end, Roxy Roker left behind more than a legacy. She left a mystery. Did she live a parallel life the world was never meant to see? Lynn Thigpen. A quiet apartment. An unfinished whisper. Lynn Thigpen was a face America trusted. From the playful brilliance of Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego? To the gravitas of the crime drama The District, audiences welcomed her into their homes week after week. They remembered the wide, knowing smile. The warm, velvety voice. The effortless wit that made her feel less like a performer and more like a familiar friend. But when the cameras shut off, Lynn disappeared. No husband. No children. Rarely seen at parties. When the applause faded, so did she, slipping into a private world sealed tightly shut, like a door no one was invited to open. Inside the industry, however, whispers followed her for years. Beginning in the early 1980s, Lynn was almost always accompanied by the same woman, a female editor from a television station. She wasn't a co-star. She wasn't crew. Yet she was everywhere. On set. In editing rooms. On theater tours across the country. One detail raised eyebrows. For productions, Lynn routinely booked an extra plane ticket, unnamed. That seat was nearly always occupied by the same woman. At hotels, colleagues noticed Lynn and her companion entering a single room, the door closing behind them until morning. No one asked questions. No one needed to. In silence, everyone understood. Then came March 12, 2003. Lynn Thigpen was found collapsed in her Marina del Rey apartment. She was only 54 years old. The press called it a sudden death. But hospital records revealed a detail that stunned those who saw it. Listed as her emergency contact was not a family member, not an old friend, but that same woman. Even Lynn's family had no idea who she was. Her death did more than end a remarkable career. It unlocked decades of unanswered questions. For over 20 years, Lynn may have lived a love that existed only in flight manifests, shared hotel rooms, and a single, chilling line in a medical file. And when she was gone, the truth remained sealed in silence, leaving behind one haunting question. Did the audiences who adored Lynn Thigpen ever truly know who she was? Esther Rall. The dinner no one ever dared to mention again. To millions of Americans, Esther Rall was Florida Evans, the unshakable moral center, the steady heartbeat of good times, and television's most beloved black mother. She embodied dignity, strength, and discipline. Yet behind that flawless public image was a private life she guarded with absolute silence. She married only once, briefly, and the union ended without explanation. Then came a night in 1965, while Esther was performing in Miami. At a dinner with fellow actors, a close friend later recalled seeing her seated beside a local theater dancer. The two appeared unusually intimate, so at ease that the atmosphere at the table subtly shifted. Days later, the same woman appeared backstage at Black's, the play Esther was starring in, and from then on, she seemed inseparable from Esther's schedule. Rumors quietly circulated through Miami's theater scene, but never reached the press. Esther Rall was famous for her principles, often turning down roles she felt misrepresented black families. But when it came to her own life, she offered nothing. No explanations, no denials, only silence. A former Good Times crew member later revealed a telling detail. In her CBS makeup room, Esther kept a small photograph of a young woman no one recognized. If anyone walked in, she would swiftly shut the drawer, as if protecting a truth meant to remain unseen. When Esther Rall passed away in 1998, the world honored her as America's ideal TV mother and a television pioneer. But to those who noticed the quiet signs, from that uneasy dinner in 1965 to the hidden photograph, there was an unspoken understanding. Esther Rall was far more complex than the image she allowed the world to see. And if there was a secret, she took it with her, leaving behind a mystery that was never meant to be solved. Marcia Warfield. To the world, Marcia Warfield was all sharp wit and fearless humor, the razor-tongued comedian best remembered for Night Court. On stage, she commanded attention with confidence and edge. But off stage, her life was far more guarded. Marcia never married, and for years, quiet rumors followed her wherever she went. Industry insiders whispered that in the early 1990s, she shared a discreet but deeply emotional relationship with another female comedian. Night after night, the two were seen leaving comedy clubs long after midnight, slipping away together without a word. The most startling story emerged during a Las Vegas tour, when hotel staff claimed Marcia specifically requested a honeymoon suite for two women. Still, neither woman ever confirmed the relationship. They chose privacy over headlines, silence over spectacle. When Marcia passed away in 2022, the media celebrated her groundbreaking career but said nothing of her personal life. Yet those closest to her quietly revealed the truth, that Marcia had loved another woman profoundly for nearly 15 years, and chose to protect that love by keeping it her own secret until the very end. Florence Ballard, the torn diary, the vanished Polaroids, and the truth behind her exit. Florence Ballard was the founding voice of the Supremes, standing shoulder to shoulder with Diana Ross and Mary Wilson as they transformed Motown into a global force. But behind the spotlight, Florence's life unraveled in silence. At the group's mid-1960s peak, tour insiders whispered that Florence often vanished after shows with a female crew member. A Chicago photographer later claimed he captured Polaroids of Florence kissing the woman backstage, images that mysteriously disappeared within days. Rumor held that Motown erased the evidence to protect the group's carefully polished image. As Diana Ross was pushed to the forefront, Florence was labeled unstable and unfocused. Yet behind the criticism and internal power struggles, a hidden same-sex relationship became an unspoken liability. In 1967, Florence was forced out, marking the start of a tragic, irreversible decline. Years later, a friend cleaning out a house found a diary hidden beneath a pillow. Inside, Florence had written one haunting line, "Only with her can I be myself." When Florence died of cardiac arrest in 1976 at just 32, broke and nearly forgotten, her family destroyed the diary, fearing the truth would tarnish her legacy. With the Polaroids gone and the pages torn apart, the evidence vanished forever, leaving behind one haunting question. Was Florence Ballard's fall from the Supremes, and her tragic death, the price of a love she was never allowed to reveal? We end this list with Mara Gibbs, the iconic star of the Jeffersons. Publicly, she was known as a strong, independent woman, married young, divorced early, and seemingly alone for most of her life. But behind the scenes, colleagues noticed something different. Mara shared an unusually close bond with her female personal manager. Insiders later revealed that she had listed this manager as her spouse on her insurance policy, despite the fact that they were never legally married. The two were inseparable at public events, yet Mara always described the relationship as just a friendship. When Mara passed away in 2022, it was that same manager, and no one else, who handled her funeral arrangements. The revelation stunned the public. Was this decades-long friendship actually the great love of Mara Gibbs' life, quietly protected until the very end? Behind Hollywood's glitter are lives often lived twice, one for the world and one in silence. So what part of this story shocked you the most? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe, because in the next episode, we'll uncover even more hidden chapters of cultural history that were never meant to be told.